All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Look, if you've been feeling, just completely crushed by the pressure of your GEE preparation, constantly battling burnout, and staring at this absolute mountain of backlogs, well, you are in the exact right place today. We're going to take a strictly scientific approach here. We're going to tear down that burnout and rebuild your focus from the ground up. We're looking at the master blueprint of the reconstruction system, using pure cognitive and behavioral psychology to completely transform how you study. Seriously, I want you to ask yourself a question right now. Did you suddenly become incapable? Like, why do you feel so overwhelmed at this exact moment? I mean, you probably started this whole journey with crazy high energy and these massive goals, right? But now, sitting down to study feels like, I don't know, moving actual mountains. It's so easy to look at all those incomplete tasks and think, man, something is fundamentally broken within me. But hey, I want to immediately validate your struggle here. It is absolutely not your intelligence that just dropped off a cliff. Not at all. What you're actually experiencing feels like an identity collapse. It's this heavy, guilt-ridden state where you just label yourself as lazy or undisciplined. But the clinical reality? It's literally just behavioral conditioning. Your brain has been conditioned, basically hijacked, by cheap dopamine, chronic overstimulation, and avoidance. You've accidentally trained your own brain to fear effort and just seek immediate relief. But here is the absolute best news you'll hear today. Because this state is purely mechanical, it is 100% reversible. So let's shift gears and move right into our next section, which introduces a completely new approach: momentum over motivation. We need a massive paradigm shift right here, right now. You've got to completely discard this popular myth that you need to feel motivated to study. Like the quote says, momentum beats motivation. Look, motivation is just an emotion, and you know how it is. Emotions fluctuate wildly. But momentum? Momentum is a mathematical reality. It compounds. We are building systems over feelings here. Action must absolutely always precede emotion. You do not need to feel excited to execute a study block. Your brain trusts evidence, and every single completed task is undeniable proof that you still have control. So, how do we actually go about building this evidence? Let's dive into section 3, the reconstruction framework. And it all starts with one absolutely critical number: 21. The very first phase of this year-long master blueprint is a strict 21-day reconstruction plan. Now, for these next 21 days, your goal is not perfection, and it is certainly not about suddenly acting like some untouchable AR1 ranker. Nope, your sole objective right now is stabilizing your behavior. That's it. We're going to aggressively reduce distraction, restart your study rhythm, and put all our focus entirely on consistency. So the real game changer is how your day actually begins. Your morning activation routine is incredibly simple yet scientifically profound. Step 1, drink water. Step 2, get sunlight. Step 3, move your body. And step 4, absolutely zero scrolling. Why? Because how you spend that very first hour of your waking day literally programs your brain's dopamine direction for the next 15 hours. If you start with high-friction, low dopamine tasks, studying is going to feel natural later on. But if you start with your phone, your attention is completely shattered before you even open a single book. Which brings us to a super vital distinction. Look, we are not locking you in a dark room to do nothing but study. Healthy dopamine, things like intentional recreation, listening to music, talking with friends, exercising, that is highly encouraged. We want that. But you absolutely, definitively must eliminate the chaotic dopamine. You know what I'm talking about. Endless reels, random YouTube rabbit holes, constant multitasking. Chaotic dopamine just wrecks your attention endurance. It trains your brain to expect a hit or reward every 3 seconds. And that makes sitting with a complex multi-step physics problem feel physically unbearable. Okay, once your dopamine is protected, we deploy the deep work study block system. Notice the rhythm we've got here. It's 25 minutes of a lecture or reading, right? Immediately followed by 5 minutes of reconstruction and then 10 minutes of question solving. And then you repeat the whole shebang. This specific 40-minute structure forces active engagement. Remember, your brain was not built for silent absorption. Passive listening is the ultimate enemy of the JEE aspirant. You've got to be active. And let's zoom in on that specific 5-minute reconstruction phase for a second, because honestly, this is where the magic really happens. You actually close your textbook, hide your notes, and answer these 4 exact questions. What was taught? Why does it work? Where is it applied? And what mistake can happen? Answering these questions creates this brilliant little micro-win. It forces your brain to retrieve the information, instantly converting that passive, weak learning into concrete, active memory formation. It's a total game changer. All right, moving right along to the next section. Let's look at memory and subject mastery. This brings us right into the cognitive science of retention, specifically something called the memory triangle. Now, every single topic you study must pass through three distinct points: understanding, application, and retrieval. And I gotta warn you right now, if you just understand a concept but you never actually apply it, or say you apply it but never actively retrieve it from your memory without peeking at your notes, those neural pathways are gonna weaken fast. Missing even one of these three elements practically guarantees you're gonna forget the material when you're sitting in the actual exam. So to really lock down that retrieval, we use a mathematical approach to revision. This is the spaced revision system timeline. Listen, you don't just read a chapter and then vaguely look at it again a month later. No way. You revise on the same day, then the next day, then after 3 days, 7 days, and finally 15 days. This calculated spacing intentionally interrupts your brain's natural forgetting curve. It dramatically improves your retention over time, and it does it without burning you out in the process. Let's apply this mechanically to the actual subjects, starting with the physics golden rule. Blind memorization is the absolute enemy here. To truly master physics, you have to understand the actual physical meaning behind the math. You've got to derive those formulas manually so your brain really grasps the logic. Know the underlying assumptions, like why does this formula even exist in the first place? And be sure to recognize its practical limitations. Doing this creates deep conceptual clarity and helps you translate the math into reality. Now, chemistry requires a bit more of a specialized strategy depending on the branch. Think about how physical chemistry is treated a lot like math. It's super heavy on repetition, approximations, and formulas. But organic chemistry, the recommended approach there is narrative and stories. Organic chemistry goes from feeling totally impossible to incredibly easy when you just stop memorizing random reactions and start tracking the logic of electron movement like it's a story playing out. Meanwhile, inorganic, that requires raw precision and spaced revision of the exact NCERT texts. It's all about recall. And then, when it comes to mathematics, well, you just have to embrace the problem-solving loop. Step 1, attempt it independently. Step 2, fail honestly. And I really want to stress this point. Do not judge yourself when you fail. Seriously, confusion and repeated struggle are actually mandatory for forming mathematical intuition. You must analyze deeply, reattempt it later, and finally recognize the core pattern. A math instinct isn't some magical gift you're born with. It's just a byproduct of processing your own failures. We also need to completely reframe how you view questions. They are not stressful assessments. Think of them as active learning tools. There are 3 levels here: basic understanding, pattern application, and advanced integration. Now, a massive warning. Please do not skip straight to level 3 just to satisfy your ego. Progressive overload really matters here. Work your way up the ladder and rigorously keep an error notebook. Honestly, tracking your conceptual, calculation, and attention mistakes is the single highest return on investment activity you can possibly do. Okay, let's jump into our final phase, building the topper mindset. Time to install that long-term execution psychology. The crucial point here is totally redefining what confidence actually means. Confidence is not magic. It is not created by staring in the mirror and thinking positive thoughts. Confidence literally equals accumulated proof. It's a mechanical byproduct. You rebuild it by completing tasks, surviving those really difficult study blocks, and actually recognizing your daily wins. Your brain needs undeniable, hard evidence of your competence. And let's be real, you cannot build that proof in a chaotic environment. Your physical environment controls your behavior far more than willpower ever could. Just think about these rules. Your phone, it must be strictly outside of reach during deep work, because even the residual thought of your phone destroys your efficiency. You also need 20 to 40 minutes of daily physical movement just to recover your nervous system. You need a fixed wake time and absolutely zero late-night scrolling. Why? Because poor sleep directly damages your emotional regulation and your memory consolidation. It's that simple. Now it is time to shatter what we call the topper myth. You know those naturally gifted AIR1 students everyone talks about? Yeah, they are not superheroes. Elite performance is simply the result of trained adaptation. They rely on incredibly stable routines. They use strong repetition systems, but most importantly, they practice emotional detachment from daily fluctuations. They don't panic when they have a bad day. They just calmly execute the very next step and let all that accumulated momentum do the heavy lifting for them. Let's wrap up this explainer with a powerful new philosophy for you to carry forward. I do not wait to feel ready. I begin, I engage, I continue, I recover, I repeat. Remember, difficulty is not proof of incapability. It's just proof of adaptation and progress. Reconstruction, repeated long enough, eventually becomes total mastery. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to finally stop negotiating with your mood, completely discard the chaos, and start your own mechanical reconstruction today?